let's get started. So once again, thank you for joining us for this presentation about the Edgewater Bridge Replacement Project, which is replacing the bridge along Mukilteo Boulevard on the edge of Everett. We really appreciate you taking the time to be with us this evening. I know for a lot of us, we're pretty zoomed out, and so and we appreciate you spending the evening with us for 30 minutes to an hour. For those of you who might be new to Zoom, the way we're going to run things just to kind of streamline the presentation is we have a Q&A button, which should be at the bottom of your screen. If you have a question, either during the presentation or at the end, just type it in there. I'll be monitoring the Q&A chat over the course of the presentation. I might be able to answer sort of as we go, or at the end, we'll have some time for Q&A with the project team. This is sort of the agenda for the evening. We'll do some introductions, let you know who from the project team is here with us to answer questions. We'll have a 20 to 30 minute presentation giving you an update on the project, where we are in the design and what's coming up with construction. And then we'll have ample time for Q&A there at the end. These are the people who will be speaking tonight. We have Gail Fisk, who is the lead engineer for the project from the City of Everett, Cash Nixad, who is the consultant, the lead of the design team, Kathleen Baker, who is with the City of Everett communications team, and then my name is Nicholas. I'm on the communications and public outreach team for the project. In addition to these folks, we have a good number of project staff from either this project or from adjoining projects here with us who can answer questions. The Edgewater Bridge project is a fairly elaborate project in and of itself, but it doesn't happen in a vacuum. There are other things happening along the Mukilteo Boulevard sort of corridor, and this project is in coordination with them. And we have folks from those teams, those projects, those disciplines here to answer questions should they arise. With that, I think we can turn it over to Gail to give us a project overview.
We're returning to you because we have new information to share about the project. We have reached the 90% design milestone for the project. What this means is that the plans and contract documents have reached 90% completion. We are working on our permits and will be addressing right-of-way soon. Construction is not that far off, and we want people to know what to expect and to give you another opportunity to ask questions. Next slide. The City of Everett is investing in our multimodal transportation by widening Edgewater Bridge to add bicycle lanes and more comfortable pedestrian sidewalks. The bridge is a vital link to Mukilteo Boulevard between the cities of Everett and Mukilteo. Edgewater Bridge is one of 3 bridges along the boulevard within the City of Everett, all of which were recognized to have seismic vulnerabilities. The city is investing in this stretch of infrastructure to strengthen the corridor as well as mitigate any potential isolation during the major seismic event. Maple Heights Bridge seismic retrofit project was completed last year, and as funding becomes available, Merrill and Ring Creek Bridge will also be replaced. Next slide. Edgewater Bridge was built in 1946. Though it is considered safe, it has reached the end of its useful life. The bridge is posted for reduced weight restrictions, and as was mentioned previously, is vulnerable during a major seismic event. Most of you will agree the sidewalks are too narrow for comfortable walking, and there are no bicycle lanes. Next. As you can see from the slide, we have a budget of $22 million, $12 million of which is from the federal grant for bridges. The project still remains within budget. And now I will hand this over to Cash.
Yep. Thank you so much, Gail. Appreciate that. And good evening, everyone. Again, the new bridge will have a cross section as shown on this slide here. There will be wider sidewalks of 6.5 feet wide on each side of the bridge. And there will be 2 bike lanes that are 5 feet wide, on, again, both sides of the bridge. So all in all, the width of the bridge will be 47 feet wide. Next slide, please. On the right, you will see the plan and elevation of the new replacement bridge. The bridge will be 366 feet long, center line of abutment to center line of the abutment. And it is composed of 214-foot approach spans and one main span of 138 feet. The substructure of the bridge is composed of the main piers. Interior piers are founded on shafts and columns. The shafts of the interior piers are 10 foot wide and 10 foot in diameter. They're round shafts and 5 foot columns on top of them. And the deep foundation for the abutments are composed of 6 foot shafts. There will be 6 girders in each of the 3 spans, as was shown on the cross section on the previous slide. Next slide, please. The bridge is, has got aesthetic features that are functional on the bridge. And as you can see, there are aesthetic railings that are on this rendering here that are FHWA crash tested railings. And also there will be pillars, precast pillars, very aesthetic, that will support the luminaires on the bridge for lighting purposes. On the bottom rendering, you will see a gateway feature that features the names of both cities, Everett and Mukilteo, and these gateways will be lighted. Again, through an earlier outreach to the community, these aesthetic, functional aesthetic features were polled, and I will pass the baton to Nicholas to talk about more on that aspect of polling and public outreach on that front.
Yeah, thanks, Kash. Yeah, as Kash mentioned, we came out to the community about just this time last year with a participate online open house, and we were asking for community input on what the aesthetics of the bridge could look like. There were 3 different designs, sort of different styles of the railing, the luminaires or the light poles, the gateway features at both ends. And we got 106 responses. Maybe some of you hopefully chimed in on that as well. There was no clear runaway favorite. There were a lot of pros and cons, and as anything that has a sort of a design component, there's subjectivity involved in personal taste. But what you see here reflects generally what we heard in terms of the styles that people liked, the style of illumination, and in particular, we heard a lot of positive feedback about the gateway features with the city name backlit. So, it was important to us to speak to people who live near the bridge and travel on the bridge and live and work in the area, because this is a bridge that will be part of the community, and we want it to the best degree feasible, reflect community interest in having an attractive bridge. So that's sort of the public input that went into what you're looking at here. I think now we will kick it back to Gail to talk about project timeline.
Thanks, Nicholas. Since we last reached out a year ago, we have made great progress in the bridge design. We approached wrapping up design and submitting, we anticipate wrapping up the design and submitting the project to WashDOT for their review late this fall. Once we have permission, we will advertise and open bids early next year. After the contractor is on board and contracts are signed, construction should start in late spring. The bridge will remain open until school is out in June. Once closed, the road will remain closed for approximately 12 months. We anticipate the bridge will open the summer of 2023 and the contractor will finish construction and demobilize. Before the bridge contractor is on board, the city will begin a two-phase sewer project. The first phase of the sewer project may overlap the start of the bridge site work, but will not interfere with the project. And once the bridge is finished, the second phase of the sewer project will remobilize and finish. This will be followed by the construction of the newly designed Edgewater Park that will be completed in 2024. Next slide, please. Through design, we anticipate some basic details about construction, but we will know more about the contractor's means and methods of construction once they are on board. Edgewater Bridge will be closed from mid-June 2022 for approximately 12 months with no pedestrian crossing path available. There is no economically feasible way to keep the bridge partially open while we rebuild it. The west end of Edgewater Park will be used as a staging area along with the intersections immediately adjacent on either side of the bridge. To provide access to the site, to have the room to operate the cranes and to swing the girders into place, it will be necessary to remove trees and brush. This will include the 5 trees at the corner of Shore Avenue and Mukilteo Boulevard. We will be following all guidelines established under the NEPA and SEPA permitting requirements, and we will be planting approximately 250 trees and a large variety of shrubs during the site restoration. These replacement trees and shrubs are additional to the trees and shrubs that will be planted during the park redesign. There will be a need to have crew parking on both sides of the bridge since the work platforms adjacent to the bridge will not connect. On the west side, the crews will need to park along West Mukilteo Boulevard between Surlock Lane and the bridge work zone. Construction vehicles will use the portion of Lamar Drive that parallels Mukilteo Boulevard to enter and leave the work zone. We will also be realigning the east end of Lamar Drive, along with adding a retaining wall and installing new drainage. Access will be provided to all residents surrounding the bridge. Also, please note, we do not anticipate any night work. Everett Transit plans to redirect service from Mukilteo to Everett through Seaway Transit Center, creating trips of 45 to 60 minutes. They won't provide fixed route service on Mukilteo Boulevard between Dogwood and State Route 525, but paratransit services will continue. And now I'll hand this back to Cash. Thank you.
Thank you, Gail. Now, we would like to talk about the detour routes for the project. We analyzed travel times to provide estimates of the length of the detours for this project. During the morning and evening peak traffic hours, we expect drivers to have their routes travel times extended by 5 to 15 minutes, depending on which route they are taking, as we have demonstrated on this exhibit here. And we would like to mention that if we want to go from point 4 to point 5 on the exhibit, it'll take approximately 23 minutes through the detour. Please refer to the online open house for more detailed information on the general detour travel times. Next slide, please. Also, regarding the travel times to the schools. As far as the school travel is concerned, we also mapped the increased travel times for that function and for the nearby schools. And we found out that the travel times will be increased by no more than 15 minutes with the routes that are shown here on the exhibit. Furthermore, the city and the design team reached out to the school district. We adjusted, and after our talks with the school district, we adjusted our construction schedule so that we do not close the bridge until the end of the 21-22 school year. And the detour will be in place for the entire 22-23 school year, for that fact. Again, please visit our online open house for more detailed information regarding any travel time during this detour phase of the project. Next slide, please. Now I will pass the baton back to Gabe.
Thanks, Cash. As noted in the timeline, there are several other projects in the vicinity of the bridge. The first project will relocate an aged sewer pipeline system that is located along Edgewater Creek. This project includes installing a new pipe along Shore Avenue and a lift station. Phase 1 of the sewer project installation of the force main pipe, as well as the relocation and installation of needed equipment, begins before the bridge project starts. Installation of the force main pipe may overlap the start of the bridge site work, but trenching is anticipated to be further down Shore Ave and will not interfere with the bridge project. Installation of the permanent pumps and electrical system to complete the project will occur in phase 2. The equipment shown in the picture will remain in place once phase 2 is completed. The City of Everett's Parks Department is using the partial closure of the park as an opportunity to undertake a new park design. We don't have a timeline for the public outreach or construction for that project at this time. The City of Mukilteo also has upgrades planned for 5th Street, otherwise known as Mukilteo Boulevard, to improve bicycle and pedestrian safety along the corridor. They also have an online open house, which will remain open until September 8th. If you have any questions about these projects, we have people available to answer those questions tonight. Next slide, please. The next steps will be visible to the public will start in September of 2022, when the contractor begins to mobilize and start some of the necessary site work that will take place before the bridge closure. Once we get close to the start of construction, we will send notifications out. As we approach the bridge closure, we will again send notifications out along with advance warning signs being installed. Expect the bridge closure to begin once school is out for the 2021-2022 school year next June. Now I'm going to hand this over to Nicholas to help facilitate questions.
Thanks, Gail. Yep, so that is an overview of where we're at with the project. As you mentioned before, if you have any questions, please use that Q&A feature that should be in the bottom of your Zoom interface and drop us a question. As a couple of people have mentioned during this presentation, we have an online open house running right now, which you can find here on the right, edgewater.participate.online. It has more in-depth information about the project. Cash was mentioning more details about detours. If you have a certain route in mind that you travel frequently and you're wondering about what your increase in travel time might be, we have some tables on that website that kind of show you what you might be able to expect from that detour. Gail, we do have one question for you. Someone notes about the many pedestrians that cross the bridge daily and wondering about, would it be possible to build a temporary trail down to the creek and then up the other side? Many people walk over the bridge to the beach area daily, and there's an old trail there that could be extended to the other side to facilitate pedestrian crossing during the closure.
There will be no pedestrian access from one side of the project to the other. Due to safety concerns, the city will not be providing a path down the ravine. We tentatively plan to provide access along the closed portion of Mukilteo Boulevard and Mukilteo Lane on the Mukilteo side to allow pedestrians and bicyclists to access Mount Baker Crossing. But again, for safety reasons, we will not be providing or upgrading a trail through the ravine.
We have another question about budget. Should there, as you mentioned, the budget is, or the project's currently on budget, but should there be cost overruns, where would those costs come from? Where would that extra money come from?
Currently, we have a buffer in our budget that we haven't taken up. And as far as if we overrun the budget, that would be a discussion with our budget committee. And it's not something I am involved with.
Okay, we have a question about traffic. Do we know how many additional vehicles will travel on Glenwood daily and what the new total would be for traffic volumes on Glenwood, presumably once the detour, I assume this is once the detour is in place.
Edward, can you take this question, please?
Certainly. So there's approximately 600 PM peak hour trips and 6,000 daily trips that cross the bridge today. The short answer is much of those trips today, about 40%, are regional cut through trips, i.e. they're making the short way towards the ferry. And much of those will go on to the bigger detour route because they'll be intercepted early of going upon Evergreen or staying on I-5 to go south to 526. So we had looked at about an additional local trips that would take the real local route as only being about 150 to maybe 200 peak hour trips that would be additional onto Glenwood. And our travel time analysis added those trips into the peak hour analysis that we did to ensure that the route would account for those additional trips. It added about maybe 1 to 2 minutes of additional delay to those existing delay points at the key intersections. Hopefully that answers your question. It's about 150 to 200 peak hour trips, which would be about 1,000 to 2,000 daily trips added towards Glenwood, which would bring that amount up to, I think that carries about 800 to 1,100 peak hour trips at the peak. When you're out there, you see when the Amazon vehicles have their shift change and Boeing at the same time, that's the kind of peak portion at that time. So it's about a 5 to 10, maybe 5 to 7% increase during the non-peak times and only about a 2 to 3% increase during the peak times. Hopefully that answers your question.
Thank you, Edward. We have a question about signage. Where will signs be posted so that commuters that use the 41st Street exit and Mukilteo Boulevard will know that the road is closed?
We are planning on advanced notices so that drivers at 41st Street and in other areas of the city that would normally come through Mukilteo Boulevard will have an opportunity to see these signs and change directions and follow a detour route. Edward, do you want to comment further on this, or did I cover that?
Thank you. I think you covered it, and we are putting them in advance, as I say, a few weeks earlier. There's the variable message signs. Our intent is to capture as much regional traffic ahead of the time so they do not anyone doesn't have to turn around. We've gone through an extensive process with the city to locate the advanced warning signs and the detour signs as best as possible. They can be adjusted, and the signs though are put in almost a permanent. We know they're going to be there for a year. We're going to be checking on the signs, and it's the most frustrating thing in the world to come across a sign that doesn't make sense or has been knocked down. And so, as I'm local to this area, it's going to be very important that I don't have people turning around in our driveways while we've spent an extra time to add additional signage to capture that early on. Thank you.
I would also like to add, we know that disruption at the first 2 weeks will be increased. It usually takes about 2 weeks for traffic to settle down into patterns. We also have a sign shop within the city that can assist the contractor in providing signs in a real-time basis. So if we see any problems, we can have signs made fairly rapidly and get them out instead of waiting several days.
We had one clarifying question on this topic. Does the City of Everett coordinate with Google Maps for, indicating a long-term road closure?
Kathleen, can you answer this question?
I think actually that is our traffic division. Possibly Tom will know this, but I believe that when we put out a variable message sign, or I believe maybe there is an automatic notification to WSDOT, and then that goes to Google Maps, but I don't know the technical details there.
We'll follow up and answer this on our website for you.
We have a question about speed limits. Someone lives on Mukilteo Boulevard. They lived there for a very long time. They've seen traffic increase year over year, along with noise pollution, and they're wondering about the possibility of lowering the speed limit on Mukilteo Boulevard and Glenwood from 35 to 30, which would align with other 30-mile-an-hour streets in Everett.
So
Yeah,
this yes.
I'll take that one, Gail.
Okay.
Yeah, that is a concern in several areas, not just in the city, but in municipalities everywhere. Certainly outside of the scope of this project, but I can certainly talk to our traffic division about that. It's a problem that we deal with quite frequently. So if the requester would want to put in, say, a service request through our website, we can take a look at that separately, but it's certainly beyond the scope of what we're talking about here.
Thanks, Tom. Would you briefly just say what your role is with the city?
Oh, I'm sorry, city engineer for Public Works.
Thanks. Okay, that is the end of we don't have any more Q&As. If anyone has any other questions, please feel free to drop them in. We have more time. But if not, as we said, we have the Participate Online Open House, which is on your screen right now on the right. That's up through September 13th. All of this information will also live when we're done with this kind of phase of public outreach on the City of Everett's project website, which is there on the left, everettwa.gov/Edgewater. And as well as Gail's contact information. So this meeting is recorded as well. So if you have friends who wanted to attend but weren't able to, we will get the recording up on that city project page in a few days. Let's see, and I will see if we can share that online service request form. I don't know if this will work, but since we talked about submitting one, I will put that into the Zoom chat. Unfortunately, this won't show up on the in the recording, but if you go to the City of Everett website, you can also look for the public Public Works service requests, and that's a place where Tom mentioned you could put in that request about the speed limit change. But if we have no other questions, I think we can, oh, let's see. Okay, so we have the person asking about speed limits dropped in contact information. So David will be in touch with you so we can connect you with that topic, the speed limit topic.
Just wanted to take one moment and say to thank all the team members who showed up to participate in this discussion, and Nicholas and Alex who provided all the technical support. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Gail. Appreciate you leading the presentation, and thank you everybody for attending. And if you think later of any questions you have, just reach out to us. All right. Have a good evening.